In this video, we will keep building our home screen, okay? And I want you to pay attention to a couple things, okay? So this is our finish up, and I want you to notice something. Yeah, we have this white background, okay? And as you can see, we have this background with a corner radius, okay? And on top of this, we have this, okay? We have these cards, and I want you to notice something about these cards, okay? For example, this one, these three cards, they look similar. Why did I say that they look similar? Well, if you pay attention, here we have an image, okay, and here we have a title, okay, and the same goes here, an image, and here we have a title on top of the image, and here the same thing, we have an image and we have the title. But if you notice, for these two cards, we have something different, okay? First of all, as you can see, we have a gradient going from the left to the right, okay? But here, we had a gradient going from the bottom to the top, okay? And here, we don't only have a title, okay? We have this quiz, play and win, and now we have this title, okay? And the same goes for this card, okay? So I want to point this out because we will go step by step. So the first thing we want to do, we want to add this on white background, okay? And then for this video, we will only focus on these on cards, okay? So we only want to focus on this on cards at the top. And in the next video, we will focus on these two, okay? So with that said, let's start with our background. So how can we add this background? Okay, because we already have a background, but we want another one on top of this. Okay, how can we do this? Well, in order to do this, what we want to do, we want to come here, and after this spacer, what we want to do, we want to create a rounded rectangle, okay? Because as we said, here we have a rounded rectangle, okay? And here we want to specify the corner radius, and we want to set it to 25. And here, this is my bad, it's not corner size, but it's corner radius. And now that we have a corner radius, as you can see, we have this on background. What we want to do, we want to play with this around that rectangle, okay? So here, we want to specify the frame. And here, for the frame, what we want to do, we want this, okay, we want this corner radius to change or adapt based on the screen, okay? Because if we have a smaller screen, we want a specific to take a specific height of the screen, okay? So that's the reason why we cannot come here on this frame and simply add a height, okay? Because if we do something like this, so if we specify the height of maybe 25, or maybe, I don't know, maybe 100, or maybe let's change it to 250. Okay, anyway, so yeah, the reason why we don't want to set the value for the height is because we don't want a fixed value for this height, okay? Because if we build our app on a small device, the height will be smaller, okay, or the height will take more space, okay, than a bigger device. And the same goes if you build this app for a tablet, okay? So the best way to set this height is to get the height of the phone, okay? And now based on the height of the phone, we want it to take a certain amount of the height of the phone, okay? So I don't know if you get exactly what I'm saying, but let me resume it, okay, and say it again. So the reason why we don't want to set a height, okay, a specific height, is because we don't want this to look weird on different screen size, okay? So for example, if we have a small iPhone, okay, and we specify a specific height, okay, we don't know how it will display, okay? Maybe it will display good, okay, on a normal phone, but if you have maybe a tablet or maybe a smaller phone, they we cannot guarantee the look and feel, okay? So that's the reason why, as I said, we want to get the height, the screen height, okay, and play with that screen height, okay? And what is the best way for us to get that screen height? Well, the best way for us to get it is to use this geometry reader, okay? And now inside this geometry reader, we can get this geometry. And now based on this on geometry, we can get the height. Okay, so here let's create a let height. And here the way we can get the height is simply by specifying this geometry, that size. And here with this size, as you can see, we can get the actual height of our screen. Okay, so what we want to do, we want to cut this and we want to put it inside our geometry reader. And now that we have this height, what we can do, we can come here on this frame, and we want to do what we want to do. Actually, we can even comment out this. So what we want to do, we can call this geometry, and as we said, we can get the size and then the height. And now what we want to specify, we want to take this height and divide this by 1.3. okay, and I will tell you why we want to divide this by 1.3. okay, because as you can see here, okay, here we want our background, okay, to take approximately 80% of our screen height. Okay, because if we do the math, when we divide this by 1.3, let's say for example that our screen height is maybe 10. okay, so if we come here and we say our screen height is 10, okay, so we take this 10 and we divide this by 1.3. okay, so this 1.3 will be equal approximately to 0.7 something. okay, so let's say 0.8. okay, so what we are doing, we will take 80% of this 10. okay, so 80% of 10 will be like 8. okay, so that's exactly what we are doing here. So we want a rounded rectangle to take approximately 80% of our screen height. okay, and with that said, we can now change the foreground color. So here is going to be foreground style, and the color we want this white color. okay, so here we call this on color, and the color we want is the color white. And now as you can see, it's looking good. Now what we want to do, we want to add our sections. okay, so we want to add these 3 cards. So the best way for us to do that, because we want to add this on top of our background. okay, so the best way for us to do that is to add this overlay. And now inside this overlay, what we want to do, we want to come here and create an edge tag. okay, because here we want it to be aligned horizontally. okay, so here we want to create an edge tag, and now inside this edge tag, now we can add our cards. okay, so as you can see, each one of these cards are clickable. So what we want to do, we want to put this inside the button. So it's going to be button. For the action, for now we will leave it empty. And now for the label, what we want to do, we want to add these images. okay, and to get these images, if you are watching this on YouTube, you won't have access to these images. okay, but if you are watching the pro version of this course, you can simply grab the starter projects. okay, and inside this starter project you will find all the images. okay, so what I'm going to do, I will simply copy and paste, okay, all the images that we have. The first one is called love, the second guitar, and we also want this SwiftUI. okay, so grab these 3 images, so love, guitar, and SwiftUI. okay, and now that we have these images, what we can do, we can come back here, and inside this button, what we want to do, we want to create a new image. okay, and for the name of our image, for our first image, we want our love image. And as you can see, we have our image. okay, but now we want to play with this image, so we want to set it as resizable. We also want to set the aspect radius to fill, and we also want to specify the frame. And here for our width, what we want to do, we want to call our geometry, we want to get the size, and we want to get the width. okay, and we want to divide this by 1.9. okay, and I already did the math. okay, so this is the right value that we are supposed to use. And now for the height, what we want to do, we want to come back here and we want to create a new height. We call it card height. And for this height, what we want to do, we want to call this geometry size that width, and we also want to divide this by 1.9, okay, and we want to add 50. And if you guys don't know why I'm doing this math, it's simply because I did a lot of testing, okay, so this is the correct height that will make our app look exactly like this, okay. So I already done the work for you guys so that you guys don't have to do it again. So yeah, now that we have this card height, what we can do, we can simply copy this, and yeah, we can provide it here. So yeah, after this width, what we want to specify, we want to specify the height, and we'll simply put this card height, okay. And as you can see, it's looking good, okay. It's looking at this one, this height. Now the next thing we want to do, we want to play with this shape, okay, because here we want a rounded rectangle, okay. So yeah, after our frame, what we can do, we can call this clip shape, and the shape we want this rounded rectangle with a corner radius of 25.0, okay. And we also want to add a shadow, and for the color of our shadow, we want to set it to gray, and we want our radius of 10. For the X property, we want it to be 0, and for the Y property, we want it to be 4. Okay, we have an error. Let's see. Okay, this is my bad. Okay, so yeah, instead of radius here is color. So normally this error should go away, and here we can even remove this color and simply call this dot gray. Normally everything is supposed to work, and as you can see, we have this nice shadow, okay. And now I think the last thing we need to do, we need to simply add this on title, okay. And for this title, I want you guys to notice something, okay. If you pay attention, for this title, we have a gradient background, okay, as you can see here. So here we have a gradient background, and then we add a title on top of this gradient background, okay. The reason why we are doing this is simply because in case we have an image, maybe a white image, okay, like this one for SwiftUI, if we don't add this gradient background, we won't be able to see a title, okay, simply because a title here is white, okay. So in order for a white title to be seen, what we need is a black background, okay. So that's the reason, if you pay attention, that's the reason why we have this kind of black background, okay, which is a linear gradient, okay. And then on top of that we have a title, okay. And because we are using this in multiple places, what we will actually do, because remember what we want to write a good code, okay. So we want to be good developers, so we don't want to duplicate a code. So that's the reason why we will do the same thing as we did here for this header. So what we want to do, we want to create another extension, okay. So if we come here after this header extension, what we want to do, we want to create another one, okay. And this time we will call it let's call it card title view, okay. So yeah, it's going to be card title view, and of course it will return a view. And now we can build our title view. In order to do so, what we want to do, first thing we want to do, we want to add this Z tag, okay. And inside this Z tag, we want to specify that we want an alignment of button leading, okay. So here is going to be that button leading. And inside this guy, what we want to show, as we said, we want to show a background, and we also want to show our title, okay. So here for our background, what we can do, we can call this linear gradient. And yeah, inside this linear gradients, what we need to do, we need to specify some colors, okay. So yeah, for our colors, what we want at the very bottom, we want the color black, okay. As we go up, we want it to become less black, okay. So what we can do, yeah, for a set of color, what we can do, we can come here and specify what we want as colors, okay. And as I said, at the bottom we want the color black, And now as we go up, so this is our very bottom, so as we go up we want it to be less black. So here we can specify an opacity of 0.5, and here we can do the same thing. We can specify an opacity now of, let's say, 0.1, and here after this we can call this that clear, and we can call it multiple times. Okay, perfect. And now for our starting point, we want it to start from the top and we want it to finish at the bottom. And now that we have this background, what we can do after this Z stack, we can simply add a text. And this is my bad, we are supposed to add this inside our Z stack. So yeah, after this linear gradient, what we want to do, we want to add this text. Okay, for now we can simply put title, and I think we need a preview for this guy. Okay, so let's see if we can preview this. So here we can come down here and simply copy this and paste it, and what we want to do, we want to call this guy and put it here, and let's see if we can see our preview. Okay, cannot find a card title view in the scope. So what we will do, in order to preview this, what we can do, we can actually come here and add this on view builder. And what we will do, we can simply copy this and go back here, and inside this rounded rectangle, what we want to do, we want to add this title on top of this card. Okay, so what we can do after this shadow, what we can do, we can call this overlay, and now inside this overlay, what we can do, we can call our card title view, and normally we are supposed to see a title. Okay, and as you can see, we are able to see it. Okay, so let me maybe zoom this in, and as you can see, we have this title here. Okay, but it does not look exactly how we want it to look. But for now, just for the sake of testing and explaining exactly what we just did, let me go back here, and I want to show you something. So as we said, here for this title, what we are doing, we want to add this background first, and then we want to add a title. Okay, so let me show you how it looks like if we didn't have this linear gradient. Okay, so if you remove this, or if you comment out this, as you can see, we have our title. Maybe let me change the image. So let me change this image to SwiftUI, and let me check if this is the right spelling. Okay, so it's capital U and capital I. So if we change this to SwiftUI, for example, because this image is white and blue, we are not able to really see a title. Okay, so that's the reason why we added this linear gradient. Okay, because we want to add, we kind of want to add this background first. Okay, and let me change this color for text. If we change this foreground style and we want the color white, so if we change it to color white, as you can see, we are able to see it clearly. Okay, so that's the reason, as I said, that's the reason why we added this linear gradient, because we want a background, a black background, before adding a title. Okay, now let's go ahead and improve this, because as you can see, we have a couple problems here. The first thing, the first problem we have is that we lost this rounded rectangle here. Okay, as you can see, because before, if I comment out this again, as you can see, we have our corner radius. Okay, but when we add this, we lose a corner radius, and the reason why we lose this is simply because we added this overlay. Okay, and this overlay will be added on top of this card. So behind the scene, we still have a rounded rectangle behind this. Okay, but because our title is on top of this, it will come and kind of shadow this rounded rectangle. So how can we fix this? Well, in order to fix this, what we can do, we can come here on this Z stack and we can add this clip shape, and we want to add a rect, and we want the corner radius to be 15. And normally with this, as you can see, now everything is looking good and everything is looking as the same as before. Okay, now what we want to do, we want to come and style this title. So what we can do, we can come here and set a font. So here is gonna to be font, and the font we want a custom font. Okay, and the name of our font, we want a font called American Typewriter Bold. Okay, so it's American Typewriter Bold, and this will change the font. Okay, and now the size here we want a size of 36, and we also want to specify the foreground color. So here is going to be foreground style, and the color we want the color white. Okay, perfect. And yeah, maybe we can change this size. Let's change this size to maybe 20. Okay, and now the last thing we want to do, we want to add the padding here. And normally, as you can see, everything is looking good. Okay, and I don't know, maybe 20 is too small. Maybe let's put 30. Okay, I think 30 looks way better. So now that we have this, it'll be easier for us to reuse it. Okay, because as we said, we have the same thing here. Okay, we have the same thing here, and we also have the same thing here. Okay, so by having this, we are able to simply reuse it. Okay, but here we have a problem. The problem we have is we hard coded this title. Okay, and we don't want this because we won't have the same title on different elements. So we want a way to simply pass a title. Okay, so here when we create this card title view, what we want to do, we want to pass the name, okay, or the title, and it's going to be a string. And what we want to do, we simply want to copy this, and instead of hard coding this, we want to simply put the name that we provided. Okay, and here we're going to have an error. And here what we want to do, we simply want to change this to SwiftUI, and normally everything should be okay. And as you can see, we have this SwiftUI here. Okay, which is cool. Okay, now that this is working, what we want to do, we want to have the same card 3 times. Okay, and as we said before, we don't want to duplicate our code. Okay, so it'll be stupid from us to simply come here and copy this. Okay, and put it down here, for example. So if we come here, we copy this and we put it down here, it will work. Okay, we will have 2 different cards, but this is not the best way to do this. Okay, because as good developers, we don't want to duplicate our code. Okay, so what we can do, we can do the same thing as we did before. So what we want to do, we want to extract this logic. Okay, and we simply want to reuse it for our different cards. Okay, so the best way for us to do so is to come down here, and what we want to do, we want to create a new view. So it's going to be sharp, and we can call it card with bottom title, and it's going to return a view. And now inside this body, what we want to do, we want to come here and we want to copy this. For now we can simply copy it, and inside this body we want to paste it. And of course we will have different error here. Okay, so here we need to get a couple things. The first thing that we need to get the image. Okay, so yeah, each time we create this, we need to provide an image. So here is going to be image name, it's going to be a string. So now we can copy this, and instead of hard coding this, we can simply put our image name. Okay, the next thing we also need a title. Okay, because as you can see, we need to provide a title for this card view. So we can come up here and create another let variable, and we want to call it title. It's going to be of type string. And now we can copy this again and provide it here. And we also need to provide a width and height. Okay, so here we can come here and create a width, and we can do the same for the height. And now what we want to do, we simply want to copy this, and instead of this, we can simply provide our width, and we can do the same for the height. We can copy this and provide our height. Okay, perfect. And everything is working perfectly except for this card title view, okay? Simply because we provided this inside this guy, okay? So this card bottom title doesn't know anything about this, okay? So what we can actually do, let's cut this and put it outside. And normally our error should be gone, okay, as you can see, because now he knows exactly how to get this card alter view, okay. So now that we have this, what we can do, we can copy this name and we can go up here, and instead of this, so instead of this image or this button, what we can actually do, we can comment out this and we can simply provide what we have, okay. And of course, yeah, we need to provide all of these, okay. So for the image name, what we actually want is this on love image. So for the image name, we call this love. For the title, what we want, as you can see, we want this love. So title love. And for the width, what we can do, we can simply come here and copy what we had, and we can do the same thing for the height. So we can simply copy this and put it here, and normally everything should be the same thing, okay. And as you can see, everything looks the same, okay. So now that we are happy with this, what we can do, we can remove this, and this way, as you can see, now we can simply reuse this guy, okay. And this is actually what we will do, okay. So yeah, what we want to do, we want to reuse this guy to create these two, okay. So how can we do that? Well, in order to do that, as you can see, these two cards are inside a v stack, okay. So yeah, inside this h stack, what we want to do, we want to create another v stack. And here, what we can do, we can simply copy this and put it here, okay. But here, we don't want this on love. What we want is on guitar. The same goes for this title. And now for the width, what we want to specify the specific width. So here it's gonna to be 125. And here for our height will be the same thing, but here we want to get this and divide this by 2, okay. And the reason why we divide this by 2 is simply because as you can see, when I was doing this app, I faced a problem, okay, because I wanted this two to fit exactly the height of this guy, okay, because if these two don't fit the height of this, it won't look good, okay. So that's the reason why I said for this card height, I did a lot of testing, okay, before ending up with this result, okay. So that's the reason why I'm saying that you guys should thank me, because I did a lot of work in order to get to the right value, okay. So with that said, now that we are happy with this, what we can do, we can do the same thing and copy this and paste it down here again. And what we want this time, we want this SwiftUI for the name of our image, and we want to do the same thing for our title. And I think it's looking good, except for one thing. As you can see, yeah, I think our title, okay, is too big. So what we can do, we can go back to this card with bottom title, and what we want to do, we want to come back on this card title view, and I think we want to reduce this size, okay. So let's reduce it to maybe 20. And as you can see, everything is looking good now, okay, and it's looking exactly as a finished app, okay. Let me maybe zoom in a little bit on this guy. Okay, perfect. And as you can see, everything is looking good, okay. Everything is looking as a finished app, okay. But except for one thing, okay, the last thing we want to do before wrapping up this video, we want to push this to the top, okay, because as you can see here, this is pushed to the top, okay. So how can we achieve this? How can we push this to on the top? Well, in order to do so, what we want to do, we want to come back to our code, and yeah, what we are looking for, we want to come on this overlay, okay. And what we want to actually do, we want to provide an offset for this edge stack. Okay, so if we wrap this on edge stack, what we want to do, we want to come here and call this offset, and we want an offset of minus 70. Okay, so by providing this minus 70, it will push this to the top. Okay, and the last thing we want to do, we want to come here and specify an alignment. Okay, because here by default the alignment is center. Okay, so that's the reason it will come at the center of our screen. But here we want to specify that we don't want this to be center, we want this to be at the top. Okay, so here we can select this top leading, and normally it's supposed to push this to the top. Okay, and here after this offset, I think we need to also provide the padding. So here let's add the padding, and we want an horizontal padding. And as you can see, everything is looking good. Okay, but we still have some space here. I don't know why. Okay, but we won't fix it in this video. Okay, but maybe in the next video we will fix this on space. I think we have an issue maybe with this calculation, but for the sake of this video, I think that's it. Okay, you guys should be proud of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video so that we can keep building these two cards. Okay, so take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.